Chair now recognizes Mr. Jordan for 5 minutes.
I think the chair, independent and impartial. That's what they told us. Attorney General of the United States says we will administer justice in an impartial fashion. The White House said we'll let the Justice Department operate in an independent fashion. The key question for this committee, the key question for the Judiciary Committee earlier today was the decision not to prosecute President Biden consistent with that commitment that President Biden and Attorney General Garland gave the country? It's a key question for the Congress when we're doing our oversight. Trump was charged, Biden wasn't. We know that's the case. Was their commitment to impartiality and independence, was that what was actually going on? Particularly when you look at what Robert Hur found. Page 1 of his report. Our investigation uncovered evidence that President Biden willfully retained, willfully disclosed classified materials after his vice presidency when he was a private citizen. So he met the elements of the crime. He kept information he wasn't allowed to keep. He shared information he wasn't allowed to share. Now, why would he do that? Well, guess what? Robert Hur told us that too. Page 231 of the report. He says it right here. Mr. Biden had strong motivations to ignore the proper procedures for safeguarding classified material. He had decided months before to write a book. So he had motive. The motive was the book he wrote, for which he got paid, by the way, $8 million in advance. So he had an $8 million motive. He met the elements of the crime, but he's not being charged. And one of the things we have to evaluate as a Congress, the legislative branches, are they administering justice in a fair and equal fashion? It's a fair question. And the best way to determine that is to get all the evidence and the best evidence. The best evidence, the purest evidence, would be the audio tape. The transcript's great. I would argue he's already waived privilege when he gave us the transcript. But we want the audio tape because that's the best evidence. That's the best evidence we can have as the body who's supposed to do oversight. It's part of our constitutional duty. In order to do that, we should get the best evidence. That is the simple question. We can get in all the other fights we get into in Congress. God bless us. That's how it goes. But to me, that's the fundamental question. The elements of the crime were met, both of them. He knowingly, and by the way, he knew the rules. He'd only been in government 50 years, chaired the Senate Foreign Relations Committee, Vice President of the United States, getting a daily briefing, intelligence briefing all the time. He knew the rules, didn't follow them, shared them with the ghostwriter, did it for $8 million, but wasn't charged. Why? Why? Because Mr. Hur said he's a forgetful, elderly gentleman. That's what he told us. So we want to evaluate it all. And the best way to do that is to get all the evidence. That's all this is about, plain and simple. I yield back.
Gentleman yields back. Chair now recognizes Mr. Stansberry from New Mexico.